Hi everyone, if you're like me and you've lost your lower back curve, the lordotic curve that we're meant to have in our lower spines, as you'll see in the thumbnail and in this picture, then this video might save you from overcorrecting or doing the wrong thing that I did for a few years, that I wish I'd have been told, or at least taught myself or coached myself better and not to do. The simple of it is, so you see all these lovely videos, people squatting and they can get nice and low without any butt wink or without any lower back rounding, and you want to be that person who can have the sexy deep squat, but you're like, oh no, I've lost my lordotic curve, and the reason why you've lost it, that's another video. But it's not there for whatever reason, good, bad, ugly, or no issues at all with it. It's not there, and it's a little bit harder to get into a deep squat or to do anything perhaps with the lower back, without the lower back rounding, or at least seeming to round. So one thing that might have happened anyway is, or what I think gets worse when you lose your lordotic curve, is you actually do then tend to move the spine more, and your ability to move the hips isn't as good, which is what happened to me. What I did wrong to overcorrect it was I went too hard at the anterior tilt with everything. I even remember like sat on a tram in Melbourne, like trying to sit really up straight and really anteriorly tilting because I'm trying to fix my lower back issue / my hip issue. And that is not what the issue is, or there maybe isn't even an issue. You need to learn to move from the hips. Now let me tilt this camera down. There is a difference between moving at the pelvis and moving at the hips. Okay, so moving at the pelvis, we know we can be sexy, stick our ass out, or we can be ducky bum, no, or we can be, Pink Panther-like and be flattened down here. So this is anterior tilt, posterior tilt, okay? And neutral, which is where we want to be most of the time, / in the middle between the two of them. I can hip hinge without tilting the pelvis. So this is me hinging from the hips without tilting the pelvis. What I thought I had to do was, to get this sexy flat spine, I needed to anteriorly tilt as much as possible with the hip hinge. Now look at the difference. You'll see it's cold, I've got a lot of layers on. So anterior tilt, neutral. There is no need to do the intense anterior tilt for this, and same when you're squatting. It will naturally move towards anterior, but we don't need to ducky bum all the way through just to make sure we're like all the other sexy girls who've got their perfect squat and perfect lower back. What we can do, keep neutral, and the pelvis will move as the pelvis needs to, and as long as we've got control of the lower spine and the lower back, we are fine. Seems quite simple, but I mean, I messed it up. And I meant to know this stuff, at least I was younger at the time. So perhaps that could help you if you're also YouTubing like I did. Lost lower back curve, what do I do about it? The answer is just you don't need to do anything to fix the lost lower back. Just do the same as everyone else, which is when you're lifting, and if it's a hip exercise, we need to move the hips, learn to move with the hips whilst keeping the spine still. If it's a spine exercise, then obviously we move the spine, but squats and deadlifts, we don't do this. If it's a pelvis issue, then understand that obviously that's the rotation through of the pelvis, posterior and anterior, like I showed you. Don't start creating a pelvis issue when you've actually got a hip hinge issue. The reason I've probably got this is because it is known in ankylosing spondylitis that the lordotic curve can be lost, the spine starts to flatten a bit, and this happened to me when I was like 16. So yeah, I think it was always going to happen. But I tried to overcorrect, but we're not going to anymore. And the reason we don't want to do it, again, is because what can then happen is, and my sister's had this as well, is we over anterior tilt. What's that going to do? Going to compress into the hip flexors and into the lower back. We're just going to create other issues in other areas that didn't need to be there. Neutral, sexy, fluid pelvis. Learn to hinge at the hips. See you later.